Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're looking at a pretty fun Thursday night slate here tonight, Nate. This one we are taking a look at the Suns headed to Atlanta, take on the Hawks. Trae Young is questionable for that one still, so make sure you are staying on top of who's in and out of those lineups. Nate does have his great article up on playpicks.com with some best bets and player props in there for you. And make sure to like and subscribe to the page, as we've got a couple other videos up for today, including that player props video that will right the ship after a 1-3 last night in those player props picks. We'll be looking to get back on track, as we've been way hotter than that in the last week or two. And as always, though, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the Suns opened at -5.5 here in Atlanta, and it has crept down to -4. Perhaps some rumblings about Trae Young playing tonight that will obviously have a huge impact on the Hawks' chances and on the total, which has fluctuated. It's right now at 226.5, seen it as low as 225 and as high as 228. That's also going to be seriously affected if Trae Young is in or out. He has a shoulder injury. He practiced on Tuesday but sat out the contact portion, and that is all we know as of this morning. But, it's a big game. Chris Paul head-to-head, obviously somebody Trae Young respects very much, so you'd think he will be out there if he can at all. 5 other games on the Thursday slate tonight. We got Wolves -7 at Pistons. That's a key injury news to watch as well, with D'Angelo Russell and Cade Cunningham. Questionable on both sides. If both those guys play, I think you like the over in yet another Wolves road game. That total up at 229. The Bulls are +3 at the Raptors with a total of 223. Another DeMar DeRozan revenge spot with the Raptors on a tired stretch here. 5 games in 7 nights for them coming up. The Heat are -4.5 at the Spurs. The Clippers are -3.5 against the Lakers with a total of 220. We break that one down in a separate episode, tell you why we like the under between those struggling teams. And then finally, Kings +13 at Golden State. So even if Trae Young plays, Josh, I think we like the Suns. I mean, it's not surprising to say that we like the best team in the NBA right now. They're on an 11-game win streak. But really, what's so impressive is their offensive efficiency. And that's something that Atlanta shares right now. I mean, these teams are second and third in assist-to-turnover ratio, offensive rating. Atlanta's shooting the highest percentage from the field in their last 8. They were 7-0, averaging one. They're still averaging 117 points per game over their last 8, despite losing with Trae out in their last outing. The numbers are just stark when he sits. They dropped 15 points per game in 5 appearances without Trae Young. Their offensive rating plummets 11 points per 100 possessions. Field goal percentage drops 5 points, and the pace is 4 possessions slower. So I think you'd be a little wary about the over without knowing if Trae is going to play or not. That's why if you're betting it early, I would tease it down with that Suns money line. I mean, the Suns down to a pick'em line. That way you get it at around 222, 221. But I'm actually not that worried about it. I think in this particular instance, the way the Suns have struggled to guard the 3-point line lately, I think the Hawks can still get going with guys like Huerter and Bogey. They have a lot of depth on the wing right now, even Sweet Lou. I think it's a stars out, bets up situation in that sense, where if Trae sits, I think Atlanta at home, where they've been much, much better lately, still comes out with plenty to prove. It's crazy to note that the home team has won 13 of the last 14 meetings between these teams, including 6 straight. And I know Chris Paul has only been involved in the last 3 of those, but the trend has continued. Atlanta smashed Phoenix by 32 last spring when they were at home. Yeah. They definitely come to play in this matchup. But the Suns, of course, very, very good on the road and against the Eastern Conference. 15-2 straight up now after beating the Nets. Only 10-7 against the spread there, but we talked in that Nets episode how they're much worse covering at home for whatever reason, under 500 covering, even though they were 1-5 straight up. But on the road, they're 15-8 against the spread, 12-6 when favored. Again, though, my key point here is just the over, just trusting both of the offensive efficiency from these teams. Phoenix scoring 123 in their last 3 games. Devin Booker absolutely on fire, 33.5 points per game his last 5. Trae Young on fire if he's going to be in there. And the last 5 meetings between these teams have gone over, averaging 233. So 225 total, not that scary, especially if you can tease it down to get the Suns to win another one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually feeling really good about the Suns regardless, even if Trae does play. I think, if Trae plays, love that over as well. But even if Trae plays, love the Suns and not scared of them. Right now, sitting at about 4 points. Really not too worried about that either. 4.5, depending where you find it. But did start at about 5.5. So it seems like it's been bet a little bit towards Atlanta. Maybe people trying to get ahead of Trae Young playing. You mentioned him, wanting to play against Chris Paul. You look at what he's done against the Suns in the last 3 seasons since CP3 came to Phoenix. He's averaging 25 points, 12 assists in 5 games there against them. So he loves to come out and play well against Chris Paul, the point guard, who I'm pretty sure every young point guard in the league grew up watching and still looking to emulate or at least beat. So the other thing about the over that would a little bit scare me is Atlanta has gotten better on defense. I still don't care though. I think a little bit of that is a mirage, even in terms of the last few games that they played. Some teams in terms of Minnesota has been in there with a pretty good offense, but other than that, in those games that they've been going under and really holding teams on defense, they played Miami with no Hero or Lowry, the C's, who I'm not really sure what to make of their offense, the Lake Show, obviously without LeBron in that one. Toronto didn't have a couple of players on a back-to-back, so it's a little bit of a mirage to me in terms of what they've done on defense, which is why no matter what happens tonight, I do like the Suns to win. I do like them to score more than 115 as well, and just looking at them, they are the best around. I mentioned the Warriors to you earlier. They're not that far behind the Suns in terms of the last 11 games, where the Suns have won all 11 of their last games in a row. The Dubs are 9-2, so they're hanging with them. But you look at where Phoenix is just dominating. It's pretty much every relevant category on both sides of the ball. They're the most complete team. Something interesting, we know how good they are in the half court with Chris Paul scoring the best 3rd offensive rating in the half court. They also have the 3rd best offensive rating in transition this season too, and they're getting out and pushing a bit. Atlanta struggling against transition with the 2nd worst defensive rating in terms of transition, giving up about the 8th most fast break points per game to their opponent. So I think Phoenix can run and find some from their eyes, some value in them pushing the pace a bit against a team that doesn't really get back in transition and really can't defend as well in those situations. And they've got plenty of guys obviously leaking with Chris Paul, obviously guys like Mikal Bridges and Book just getting down the floor real quick for them. So, I like that mid-range gang as well. Phoenix, in the top 3 all season in terms of mid-range. They've been that since Chris Paul got there. Atlanta also bottom in terms of defending mid-range shots as well, giving about 43% to their opponents. There's a really good field goal percentage from that shot specifically. They've got Ayton and Crowder back, which definitely helps their D a bunch. So, that's the only thing that does frighten me a bit about a 225 total. Not saying I wouldn't take it, but definitely feel very good about a tease down to about 221, as you mentioned, with basically a pick 'em for and taking the Suns there. But my thing is like, I just feel good about the Suns being able to handle this game in this situation. Like I said, even if Trae Young is there, 12-6 against the spread is road favorites right now, which they're covering that spread by an average of about 6 points, winning their games by about 11 points a game, right? So they're about 5-point favorites in their last 18 on the road when they're favorites like that, and that's what this spread is, and they're still beating that, covering that by about 6 points a game in those situations. So there's nothing that really scares me about taking the Suns tonight. I know we like Book to get his, as he's been on an insane tear. I mean, in his last 5, we know he's averaging about 34 points a game, but in the 11 games that they've won, and they have only lost once since 2022 started, and in the 11 games they've won, he's averaging actually about still 30 points a game with about 5 boards and a couple assists, or 4 assists rather. So I feel fine taking the Suns. In short, I think they're the best team by far, and this is a situation where there's nothing that leads me to go, oh, they don't play that well, they don't do this that well in this scenario. They do everything just fine in a way that I think they can handle a Hawks team, even if it does have Trae Young, top 3-4 point guard in the league right now.
And I know you like the Suns team total as well if you want to bet it before Trae plays, because that's not really going to have an impact on how much they score. Exactly. What's it at 117 right now? Phoenix
115.5.
Scoring 123 recently, as we mentioned. I mean, well over about 118 during this whole 10-game stretch where they've been on fire. And holy hell, looking at the Hawks game log against Western Conference teams, look, they gave up 132, 133, 136 in losses, 134 to the Lakers too, and then kind of switched things around in 3 wins now. But their pace is over the Wolves, Kings, and struggling Lakers, all 3 really bad defensive teams, but their pace has gone up to about 101 in those games, and they're shooting over 52% in those games. So it's really kind of an adjustment in terms of let's just run and gun with these West Coast teams. And the Suns, as we talk about often, they'll play any way you want. If you want to run and gun, they've got the weapons to do that. Now they have a lot more depth with Crowder and Ayton back in the lineup. They will match points with you. Certainly they'll adjust on the road where they are a bit more flexible in terms of how they're going to play there. And so I think the Hawks, who are shooting the 4th best percentage from deep, as I mentioned, that I think they should be able to stay hot from the perimeter at home against the Suns team that struggled with 3-point defense lately. And I think just the non-conference matchups tell you what you need to know, especially because the Suns have also gone over in 6 of their last 8 against the East. So they've shown that they're willing to switch it up a little bit, and that these Eastern Conference teams are trying to beat them by running and gunning.
Yeah. And the last 5 between these 2 teams have gone over. And you really just look at not only Atlanta's pace, which is, torrid over at 101. It's crazy high. It's also their shooting. It's not just Trey shooting the ball. It's him getting his guys back, right? And they've been healthy for this win streak. I mean, it's not really a coincidence that in the last 2 seasons, the Hawks rather go on, the longest win or losing streak, 7 to 10 games, winning in a row, losing in a row. And it's really directly related to who's in the lineup for them. I mean, they've had probably the most wing depth of any team in the league the last couple of years, but they also haven't had guys like Gallo and Bogey in the lineup as consistently as they need. That has been the case for them lately, which is why their shooting is back up to, like you said, 2nd best in the league in their last 6 games or so, as they were winning a bunch. If Trey sits tonight, there's 0 chance that they pull this one off. I'm not really feeling great about their offense either in that case. So that's why, no matter what happens with Trey, you feel good about Phoenix's team total. You feel good about Phoenix winning, and you might try to get ahead of a couple things if Trey does sit and that spread just balloons even more. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Got a couple other videos up for you today. And until we see you next, happy betting.